Just because she feels so bad to play, I'm putting her here. You probably like her. I really don't like her that much. How's it going, YouTube? It's Quaver. You've seen a million tier lists, and I'm here to provide you with another one. We're going to be focusing on fun, power, ease of use, ease of build, everything that you need to look out for when it comes to these units and how well they can affect your account. Because let's be honest, as good as Don Hong and Imbibitor Lunae is, if you don't have his E2, if you don't have Sparkle, you might have a rough time especially if you're a new player or returning player. Other units just don't have that ability while putting out his power. So I bring you the Honkai Star Rail 2.1 tier list from the premium FeelsCrafter of this platform. So a pretty standard tier list here for you. We're going to be going over every character that's been released up until 2.1, and we're going to include Adventurine since we did get to try him in the story and see a little bit about how his gameplay works. However, when it comes to his actual numbers, we're going to wait a little bit of time on that. Everyone that comes out 2.2 and beyond, we are going to completely exclude them. We don't know any numbers on them. We've only had the drip marketing, such as for Boot Hill and Robin. So we are not going to be looking at them particularly for this list. So we're going to be going one at a time, and this is going to be the most bare bones, how good does it feel to play a character kind of tier list, because we got to focus more than just on meta here, because everyone talks about meta, but no matter how good certain characters are, sometimes they're just awful to build and play around. So we are going to go through and see power, level of investment, strength and power are the same, but you get what I mean. All right, so let's start off with the physical Trailblazer. So the physical Trailblazer is the starting unit that you get. Her power level has never really been that great, and I don't see it improving anytime soon, so she'll be going in the B tier. And yes, we are using the female MC, because if you pick the male MC, then skill issue. Now we are going to be going on to Bailu. So Bailu is an interesting one to talk about here, because while her healing is very good, she doesn't really bring much to the table aside from that. Like, if you need her revive, it's very good early game. It'll help you out a lot when you're first starting out. So picking her up like in the starting banner, if you're doing re-rolls, if you're a new player, she can be good, but she sees a lot of power creep. So we're going to leave her in the B tier for now. Bronya is tough to rate now just because Sparkle is out, and while Bronya does have a lot of good that she can do, Sparkle just feels so much better to play than Bronya, and I have a feeling that Sparkle's going to be going in the S+ tier, so we're going to be leaving Bronya here in the S, simply because even though Sparkle does feel better to play and she offers a lot of the same things Bronya does, Bronya is standard banner. You don't have to wait for her. You'll likely pick her up if you lose a 50-50 or on the standard banner or the opening banner. Nothing wrong with having a Bronya on each team, right? She will be landing in the S tier for now. So we're talking about Clara next. Clara is interesting because with a certain amount of investment, she can be pretty solid, but I don't see her outperforming some of the more limited 5-star DPSs, but she is also standard banner. Once you get her E1 especially, she definitely feels pretty good to use. I think we're going to leave her in the A tier for now. She might move around a bit, but I think A tier is a good spot for her. Okay, moving on to Gepard. Gepard, before Acheron came out, Gepard was sitting comfortably in the B with Bailu, but after seeing how good his synergy is with the light cone that applies fire damage, I think it's called Trend of the Universal Market, he boosts Acheron a good amount when you don't have certain other sustain units, especially since Adventurine isn't out yet. Gepard's going to be a very good unit for your star, so we're going to slot him in the A tier. However, depending on how good Adventurine's numbers are, that could change. He could possibly be B. If you're a brand new player, he could possibly be an S tier, since the shields that he provides are pretty nuts, and he's the only one that could provide AoE shielding as of this time, but we're gonna leave him in A tier for now. Moving on to Himeko. Himeko, when the game first started, was about here, but then you put her in Pure Fiction and she's about here. If you take out MOC, take out Pure Fiction, she's very good at farming. She makes farming very easy. Her power level is pretty standard. I wouldn't say it's anything exceptional, but seeing her follow-up attacks go off and seeing how well her animations look, she's a very fun character to use. I think I'm going to leave her in the A tier. Yeah, A tier sounds good to me, because as much as she doesn't compete with some of the 5-star limited characters, her ease of use, her ease of build, like, you don't need to have a crazy amount of crit rate, crit damage on her. You don't need crazy CVs on her. She is a follow-up attack unit. She pairs well with Herta, who you get multiple copies of for absolutely free, especially in Pure Fiction, farming, and using her will give you a very good ease of use throughout the entire thing. Okay, so now we're going to move on to Welt. If you talk about Welt building crit rate, crit damage, building him as a pure DPS unit, I'd say he's about here. However, if you build him as sustain Welt with a hyper carry Acheron, then I'd put him about here. Maybe even up here, because a lot of people really underestimate how good Welt is. Because if you have to clear 5 cycles for everything, then he's going to be about here. If you could clear within 2 cycles, he's going to be about here. And if you are a 0 cycler or a 1 cycler, then he can be all the way up here if you use him with Acheron. So if you pick him up from the opening standard banner and then you still have Jades and you want to pull for a good DPS, Acheron is going to be very, very good to pair with him. I would highly recommend that. And you know what? Yeah, he's staying in S tier because of his synergies with Acheron. He's staying in the S tier, especially with how good Acheron is just overall. Okay, moving on. Next, we have Yanqing, the Ice Boy. He can 0 cycle just like area of the unit with super high investment, but that's just the thing, super high investment. It's not fun to build Yanqing, and even if you use someone like Gepard, even if you use someone like Aventurine when he comes out, using Yanqing never feels good. He's a single target, his follow-ups can look cool, but a lot about him just really doesn't rub me the right way. Like, I would rather use Bailu than Yanqing, but at the same time, Yanqing's not a terrible DPS. On terms of feel, I'd put him down here. However, if you take into account power, level, everything that you could put into him in Aventurine coming out soon, I'm going to leave him here. You can 0 cycle him, and if you are gotcha smack, then he'd probably be up here. However, because we are going to go based off of how good he feels, I'm going to leave him right there. Next is Arlan. Arlan, I do not have a lot of opinions on. He consumes his health to do damage, and he does not feel great to play, even in the trial, which, to be fair, things like the trial don't have good relic sets on good character sets. But at the same time, I've never felt really connected to build him, and he kind of just feels bad to use. I'd put him down here with Seele, unfortunately, for the physical, at least. Asta's interesting. Asta does a lot when it comes to speed tuning for teams. She can really help when it comes to making sure that your characters are up to speed, making sure that you are hitting those speed thresholds that you want. She could even squeeze in some third turns for characters depending how well their speed is. But at the same time, Ruan Mei exists, and she kind of just gives speed by existing, where Asta needs to ult. I will say that playing her feels nice though, but I can't rank Asta above Bailu, but I could put him above Yanqing. So I think she's going to be sitting right here when it comes to how good she feels to play. Moving on to Don Hong. I'll be real. Using him does not feel that great. Like his ult, like you get the whole area of effect around it to where it looks pretty decent, but him, he's just, his story's over, his character arc's over. Imbibitor Lunae exists. Like if you want Don Hong, you play Imbibitor Lunae, but his damage isn't as bad as these two, so he's gonna be going in C tier, but I wouldn't really recommend him. Okay, next up is Herta, Genius Society member, has a billion bodies of dolls, and she does the famous Akuru. Okay, so when it comes to her, I think that she pairs really well with Himeko. When it comes to how good she is, I'd say she probably is about an A tier power level. I really do like her animations. She's pretty fun to use, weirdly enough, even though her animations aren't anything crazy. Like when she does her spin into the hit of the crystal, I think it does look really good. I think that she's going to be sitting here with Himeko, especially since when you pair them both up together on a team, they're both up here. But if they're individual, then I'd say they're about here, because playing them together on like pretty much everything just feels really good, as long as there's either ice or fire that you can break. Because if you break, then they're gonna start doing follow-up attack Himeko because of a break. Okay, then you get follow-up attack Herta. Okay, now Herta ults, and then you get more follow-up attack Himeko and follow-up attack Herta, and you could just like completely spin and cycle it and just go all around. And that is very fun to do. So based on how fun they are and how good they are, especially in pure fiction, I'm gonna leave them here in the A tier together. You know what? No, Herta's got to stay in A, and then Himeko will go up here to S tier, because Himeko has the power where Herta has the fun aspect. Together, they are really, really good though, so don't sleep on them. Hook. I don't hear anyone ever talking about Hook. I don't want to play Hook, and she's also like a small child. I don't necessarily want to have the tiny child on my team. I think she's going to go down here with the D tier. I mean, her damage is better than, I'm gonna put her at the top of D tier actually, because her damage is better than these two for sure. Even Arlan's better than physical Trailblazer, unfortunately. But if I had to use either Hook or Don Hong standard, I think I'd rather use Don Hong standard. So that's where that list is going to be. March 7th is super interesting because if you just use her in things like MOC Perfection, then she's like down here. But then there's certain teams that you can build in Golden Gears and in Swarm Disaster to where she would move like up here. So it's really hard to determine where exactly she would go. However, in my personal opinion, based on her animations, how fun she is, her ease of use to use, honestly, I think I'd put her here. She's not as bad as Don Hong, but she's not as good as someone like Asta. I think she's better than Yanqing though. Like Yanqing really is just he just feels super bad to play. Like I'd rather have March a million times over than Yanqing. I'm going to leave her here. I think this is a good spot for her. Natasha, her healing is here below Bailu, maybe even up here. But how she feels to play is like down here. I do not really care much for Natasha. Like the way her ult just explodes and creates all the kid stuff is like, it's like cute and everything, but like, it's just not me. It ain't for me whatsoever. And in terms of power level, again, she'd be about like right here. I think I'm gonna leave her right here, slightly above Don Hong standard. Yeah, that looks good to me. Like if you get Bailu, if you get Lynx even, like you're just not gonna really build her. Pela's so tough to rate because her strength is up here, but her like animations are like down here. Honestly, like as much as people love to say Pela's great, because Pela is absolutely fantastic when it comes to her power level of strength and what she can offer, like don't try to convince me that you enjoy popping her ults. Like it feels super bad. It doesn't ever like make me feel, ooh yeah, Pela ult. It's just like these little drones just kind of like go like a wah 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 at the enemy, and it's nothing too crazy. But her power level is so nuts that if I don't leave her up here, then the comment section is going to come after me in full force. You know what? This is a feels tier list. Just because she feels so bad to play, I'm putting her here. She's going at the top of S tier. Power levels up here, but with you include how fun she is to play, right here. Ease of use up here. Ease of build up here. Skill level, power level up here. Animations and actual fun to play down here. So based on all those S's and that one D, she's going right here. You probably like her. I really don't like her that much. Feel free to let me know how wrong I am in the comment section. All right, the RNG machine, QQ. QQ is so annoying to rank because her power level is like here, but just like Pela, using her is like down here. She's not as boring as Pela, but her RNG feels so bad to use. Like, you could argue that if you're going for things like zero cycle, you hit the reset button all the time. If you're trying to clear the content, you don't really have to hit the reset button that often. But with QQ, sometimes like even when you're going for a 5 cycle clear, you gotta like hit that reset button, and it feels really bad. She's about as good as Seele, and I'd say even Seele is slightly better than her still, even if you have like her at E6 and then Seele at E1. Yeah, I'm leaving her right here in the A tier. Sorry, she just ain't for me. And I think that if you play her and you make her your first invested DPS, unless you really like the RNG, she might frustrate you out of playing the game. Like, that's how bad her RNG can get. And after some consideration, I'm putting Herta at the top of A tier. Okay, moving on to Sampo. Sampo was the premium wind shear unit. He was about, I'd say he was about here, and then Black Swan came out, and now his strength is like down here. He didn't necessarily lose strength, but Black Swan is so good that like, why would you ever play Sampo at this point? Even though Sampo is super freaking cool, some people would disagree with that, but even though Sampo is really cool and he's like one of the most interesting 4-star characters for the story, you can't argue with that. It is the truth. His strength is not as good as it used to be. I'd honestly put him here. Okay, moving on, we have Serval. Am I the only one that's never really cared about Serval or her animations? I am? Oh. I'd say her strength is probably somewhere in the B or very, very low A, but her animations, her quality just doesn't feel great. I think she goes about, yeah, she goes about there. That's where I want to put her. She's, even in the story, she was like, all right. I like Gepard more. She was like the sister that kind of kept everything together. I liked her interactions with Cocolia, even though Cocolia turned out to be who Cocolia turned out to be. You all know. Sushang is next. I really like her in the story. She's very fun when she interacts with Gonifin, but before Gonifin came out to interact with her, she was just kind of like the chicken lady. I think I'm gonna put her here. Top of C tier. Like, she's not as good as someone like Serval. Yanqing can outperform her, but then you put an insane amount of investment into her and then she could like be up here. So this is how I'd rank her. If you rank her with doing a crit rate, crit damage build, she's a hyper carrier, then she's here. If she's a break effect only unit, you run her as a breaker, I'd say she's about here. Take it with a grain of salt, but we're considering her as a DPS here, and as a DPS, she's top of C tier. Moving on to Tingyun. Like, let's be real, she's S+ tier. Even after everything that happened in the story, us never really knowing the real Tingyun, she's still incredibly good. All her buffs are incredibly good, and even after all this time, her animations still look pretty good. The way that she boosts up to give energy, she does like the fan dance. I think everything about her is still pretty solid. Everything about her is pretty much S+ tier. She's pretty fun to use still. So yeah, Tingyun gets to be our first entry into the S+ tier. Congratulations. Okay, moving on to Fire Trailblazer. She has some of the best animations in the game for a unit you just get for free, honestly. I really do like her, like, empowered, like, stick the lance into the ground with an explosion, and the ult still looks cool. Obviously for Kayla it'll look different, but again, Seele is the correct choice. So when it comes to her animations, her strength level used to be here. Acheron kind of pushed her up to being about here. Honestly, I don't think she's as good as Gepard, but she is still really solid. I'm gonna put it here. Seele used to be up here, and she's slowly over time just been falling and falling and falling and falling, and okay, she didn't go that far down. If you do face enemies that you could proc Resurgence on, she's still fairly good. Her individual damage is still pretty decent, but everything about how Acheron plays and how strong she is and how easy she is to build, like, you take a relic set that is 60 crit rate with 140 crit damage, you put it on Seele and she will perform all right and decent, but you put that same set on like Acheron and she'll perform like up here. She needs a rework, she needs a buff, she needs something to bring her back. Her animation quality and stuff still looks good, but after a year of, you know, hearing the butterflies, like, you might be a little tired of it. But for new players, I'd say I'd put her about here. It really just depends. RNG can put her here, but if she loses RNG, then Seele goes up above her. And another thing to keep in mind is that these are all the units together, so obviously Seele is stronger than Gepard when it comes to DPS numbers, but she's not going to be as good as some of the other characters that we have coming up. But when it comes to sustain, Gepard's definitely up here in the A tier. I think that they kind of overvalue Seele a little bit in like the Pride Win tier list, keeping her at S. And I think that this is about where I would set her. However, after seeing this, I think I would have to move Clara down because Clara's not as good as Seele. Seele is also better than Herta, but when you pair Herta with Himeko, like, they both outperform Seele, and that's just how it is. Our general, Jing Yuan, D tier. Okay, moving on. Nah, I'm just kidding. So our general here, he has the Lightning Lord. He has a pretty good AoE. All of his numbers are decent, but playing around Lightning Lord just feels so bad. And the mechanic to where if Jing Yuan gets CC'd and Lightning Lord gets pulled back, it feels so bad. And as cool as Lightning Lord is and how good it looks, like, just playing around it and not being able to cycle up Lightning Lord faster just like makes it lose a lot of value. I'd put him about here, honestly, like even below Clara, because you can build a team around Clara and circumvent her to have constant Svarog, but no matter how many times you boost Jing Yuan, like even with like you go Sparkle Bronya, both of them with Jing Yuan, he goes like 4 times in a turn, Lightning Lord still just acts one time. That just feels really bad. His kit enables a ceiling that he has to live around, and that doesn't feel good to have. Sorry, but that's where he goes. Okay, moving on to Silverwolf. Silverwolf pretty much does everything that Pela does as a single target user, so people say that Pela is better than Silverwolf. I'd say power level wise they're about the same. Her being able to implant the bug and make any character vulnerable to a specific element used to be very important, and in certain scenarios it still is super important, but I'd say it's not as important as it used to be, especially with Acheron coming out. All of it sounds pretty good. All of her animations look really good. I think her ult, you know, typing on the keyboard and bopping them down still feels great. You could build her just purely as like an effect hit rate character that just only wants to put debuffs, or you could build her crit rate, crit damage, and do damage. I think she's up here. I wouldn't say she's above Tingyun, but she's up here. I'd say her and Pela are equals when it comes to what they can do, but then again, it's the animation quality, how good it feels to use them. It feels better to use a Silverwolf than a Pela. It does. It does. Next up is Luocha. He's been getting a lot of hate recently. He feels very bad. Like, everyone needs to, you know, pay some respect to Mr. Luocha. His healing is exceptionally good. His skill point management's exceptionally good. He feels good to play with. The only thing he doesn't really provide is things like crit ratio, the way that Xuan does. Ho has the energy and the attack up, so they're not making your cycles go faster, but he is sustaining you through all of those cycles. And because of his skill point management and the way that his ult can remove a buff, he feels really good to play. Like, on terms of how good he is as a sustainer, I'd put him here above Welt. I wouldn't say as good as Bronya or Pela, but when he does his job very well. I'd say Luocha does not get enough love. Moving on to Yukong. Yukong, her power, I'd say she's about here, somewhere in this tier, but having to play around the next 2 turns for the buff, like, you have to speed tune so much, and let's be honest, unless you're trying to be a zero cycler, doing the speed tuning just doesn't feel great. I mean, and even then, getting her to E6 is kind of almost like required for her to compete with like Ruan Mei at E0. It's even then, like, just ease of use, ease of build. She is tough on all those fronts, and her animations do look pretty decent, I would say, but even after getting her to E6, I was happy for about half a second, and then I was like, shit, I have to build her now? I don't really want to. You know what? This is my tier list. She's going below Asta. As much as Yukong brings, I don't think she's that great. She doesn't feel great to play. She doesn't feel great to build. I would much rather have Asta on my team than a Yukong, and that's just my opinion, right? Okay, moving on to Blade. I probably put Blade here in the A tier, and I'm like, man, Blade feels so good to play. All of his animations look sick. His ult looks sick. His ease up build is great because you could farm his relics while farming the messenger at the same time. Honestly, I'd put Blade up here. I said it. I don't care. Blade is so unique in what he does. HP scaling, his damage, his damage is about bottom of S tier, but if you include how good he feels to play, how easy he is to build, just how great all of his stuff looks, how cool he is, Blade's like very, very bottom of S plus. You cannot change my mind, but if you would like to try, please try your best. Kafka. Do I even need to explain this one? Kafka is the DOT enabler, the damage over time queen. Nothing could ever replace her. Black Swan is extremely good and bumped her up to be even better, but when the Black Swan's replacement comes out and Black Swan's power crept, guess who's still going to be there? It's going to be Kafka. Kafka's never going to go away. Kafka is, when it comes to feels, plays, power, everything about her, especially with Black Swan being out, S plus, not even a question. Moving on to Luka. If you build him as a DOT, purely a DOT unit, I'd say he's about here, just above Sampo. If you build him as a breaker, DOT sub, like specialist, I'd say he's about here. And that's, I'd say, where most people would build him. So if you want someone that could really break those shields better than Sushang for the same element, getting those break effects, getting the bleed, Luka belongs about here. Very, very bottom of A tier. I would not put him above even Lightning Lord, but as a breaker, I'd say he's like at the top, but as everything mixed together, animations, personality, quality, ease of use, ease of build, I'd say he's about here. This is where I put him. Dan Heng, Imbibitor Lunae. Power level, he's up here. Animation quality, I'd say he's up here. Pretty much everything else makes him a lot harder to rank so high. Because if you're talking about the relics he needs to really perform well, he's here. If you're talking about how easy it is to play him, how good it feels to always have to use 3 skill points, he's down here. So putting everything together for new players, experienced players, I'd put him at the top of S tier. His damage is nuts and it's insane, and if you have his E2, all of his other problems go away. So if he's E2, then he's top of the S plus tier easily. But if we're talking about E0 for everyone, this is where he lands for me. Xuan, the queen of the preservation. You press her skill button once every 3 turns and everyone can resist crowd control. They have more crit rate, they have more HP, and they will never die. Also, her ult looks insane, and the way that she flips when she heals looks really, really good. Is she as good as Kafka? This is gonna be a hot take, but yeah, I think she is. Kafka is fantastic. She's definitely the queen of DOTs, the mommy of the community for most people, or like if you're Tectonian, it's like her massive tits. However, I really do like Xuan. Her personality, the way all of her animations look, how easy she is to build, how easy she is to use, how good she feels on every team, like pretty much every team except for maybe like dot teams, because dots don't need the crit rate, but even then without the crit rate, the max HP and the dots not taking damage, like she could still be used there. She's sitting at the top for me, that's for sure. Okay, moving on to Lynx. I really do like Lynx's personality, and I still use her to this day. Her AoE healing on the ult is good. The only thing that holds her back is that she has 4-star value scaling so that they could sell the 5-star value scaling. I would still say that she is better than Gepard. If with Acheron, Gepard's above her, but without Acheron, she is above Gepard. Because everyone pretty much is going to have Acheron with those like nuts 100 million banner sales, I have to leave her slightly below Gepard. This is where I put her. Neither of them are as good as Luocha, but they are still really, really solid. Now, anyone that's familiar with my channel and with my outro would know exactly how I feel about Jing Yuan and her animations. They are one of the best in the game. Her sicko mode's insane. Her story's really good. Building her is super easy, or not like the easy, it's not as easy as dot teams, but you could like ignore a lot of crit rate and just go crit damage. So all those pieces that only road crit damage that you can't use on anyone else, you could use on Jing Yuan. She is one of the best characters in the game for DPS at E0. I think the only person that beats her now is Acheron, and even then it's not by as much. The way that Acheron beats her is just by having been able to do the ult spam, and she is so good, and I've wanted her for so long, and she's so cool that I'm pretty sure I'm gonna E6 her. So stay tuned for that video and please check it out when it comes out. I would put her right below Xuan. I think that Xuan offers so much to so many teams, and because you don't need any crit anything on her, she's still slightly easier to build. But then Jing Yuan too, she also goes on dual DPS. She could be hyper carry, like dual DPS with Blade. And Ruan Mei is still really fun to use and is really good. But if I'm being just honest with myself, I think I still prefer Xuan over Jing Yuan. Okay, moving on. We have Top Ass here. Topaz. See, she's hard because she makes Doctor Ratio even better. She makes follow-up really better, a lot better. She makes Lightning Lord here really good too. But am I the only one that's upset about the fact that Nummy is all of her animations and the only thing that she does is like shoot a finger gun? It's so bad. I think strength wise she's up here as like a supporter for follow-up attack units, but her like animations, because it's only the pig, like it's like down here. Like I hate the fact that she doesn't get to do more with her animations. So I'm gonna leave her right here next to Lightning Lord. Very unfortunate, because if she had better animations I would have like put her somewhere up here, but her animations just piss me off in the worst kind of way. Now we have Gwenifin. Her personality is just great, and she's honestly, like, on her character alone, I'd put her up here just because I really like Gwenifin. She's really great to the story and every part that she's been in, and she's always been really fun to play around with. Her build is super easy, but her power level just kind of fell off. Honestly, I think that she's better than Luka and Sampo. If you're DOT specifically, Luka's a better breaker. I would put Gwenifin in the Acheron team, especially about here. I think that she supports that team a lot better. If she's pure DPS, then she's like down here somewhere, but I think Gwenifin's better as like a breaker supporter now for Acheron DOT applier, and I'd put her about right there. Well, some people don't like her just because of how she's like a crybaby. You know, we got Scooby-Doo, as Smack likes to call her. I think that she is, I do like her personality, even though she is just a big crybaby all the time. I really like all those like images I've seen, the meme images of like her surrounded by like Kafka, Black Swan, Ruan Mei, and she's just like crying and they're protecting her. It's very cute. It's very heartwarming. Her heals are nuts. She offers energy and attack percent. She's easily the best sustainer for DOT specifically. I'd put her right there. I think that that's a safe spot for her. I think that's a good spot for her. Ease of use, ease of build, how she looks, how she performs. She's up here. You're never going to regret pulling a Hua, that's for sure. I don't really get to hear very much about Argenti because not very many people use him. The way I understand how he works, the way he's felt to me when I've played him is if you are playing him against enemies that are weak to physical, he's up here. You're playing him against enemies that are not weak to physical, he's like down here. So it's really, really dependent on what enemies you're fighting. And having the 2-stage ult, I do think is really interesting, and his animations look crazy good. People sleep on Argenti's animations. I think that he's like a bit of a showboat, and I think that's pretty cool. So I'd put him about right there. I think that most of these other characters can outperform him on average for sure, but I wouldn't sleep on him. I think that if you're going up against physical a lot and you just like, or that's like the last thing you need to fill your overall coverage, I don't think you would ever regret pulling an Argenti. Hanya, I don't honestly have a lot of opinions on. I think that Hanya came out in a time to where she didn't get to shine as much as she could have if she came out earlier in the story, earlier in the game. If you have a Ruan Mei, if you have a Bronya, why would you ever use a Hanya? Her animations and her story and her character is pretty cool, but I can't in good faith put her much higher than this, so that's where she's gonna stay. Next, we have Ruan Mei, arguably the strongest Harmony character, definitely, without question, the most universal Harmony character. Her skill, SP positive, her ult, her E1, everything about her is pretty nuts. And everyone, not everyone, but a lot of people don't really care much for her animations. I think her animations look amazing. She is elegance to a T. She is grace. She will slap you in the face. I'd rather use a Ruan Mei than a Tingyun, and that might be a hot take, that might not be a hot take. Ruan Mei is universal, she is fantastic, she's great. Because she relies on break effect, it's really not that hard to build her either. It's pretty super easy, and you're gonna get her set when you're farming for Acheron. You're gonna get set for her quite easily as well, like, not even a question. Definitely up here. Shu Yi. I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce her name. Please don't cancel me if it's not. I'd say she is the character that was the most designed to be a break DPS unit. And before Acheron came out and had an ult that affected everything, she was the only one that had anything that could break toughness regardless of type. Because Acheron does exist now, that value of hers drops. I can't in good faith put her any higher than this now that Acheron exists. Acheron exists like power crept more than just hyper carry DPS. She power crept like a lot of things and also brought a lot of units back up. So it's exciting to see how metas can change based on one unit's existence. And of course it's going to be Ruan Mei that throws everything into disorder. Now we have the most freemium unit of all time, Dr. Ratio. His animations all look exceptionally good. His follow-up attack is great. I really do like his playstyle of throwing an ult on someone's head and then you could just attack them with anything and then he gets a free follow-up. He's a very strong single target DPS. If you have him with Topaz, he's a bit better too. I put Dr. Ratio here. He makes me feel like an idiot and I kind of like that. So moving on. We have the most anticipated unit of 2.1, at least before they did all that marketing for Sparkle. Now it's up in the air. Her Arcana stacks are nuts. Her talent's really good. She's super easy to build, as easy as Kafka, if not even easier, because she needs effect hit rate instead of just like all attack stuff. I think Black Xuan would easily go up here. She's very easy to use, easy to build. You could just build her. You build her up once to just always apply Arcana and do damage, and you could put her on DOT only teams. You could put her on teams that need a debuffer. You could put her on Acheron teams. This looks pretty good to me. All right, we're getting near the end, and we have the most lovable racist in the game, Sparkle. She changed the game. She made Dawn Hong and Imbibitor Lunae even better than he already was. She was the only unit to have ever power crept Bronya. Her animations all look really good. I mean, it's simple, like with the fish, with the masks, but I think all of them look really good. I especially love her like random walk-up kick. Like there was no need for her to be that sassy, but it was. This might make a lot of people mad, but Sparkle is my favorite character in the game. It's not even close. She kind of took over my thought process in my mind. She is like a bad guy to the T, and she's a really good at being a bad guy. Like finally we have someone that's not like, I'm going to take over the world, I'm going to kill this one character. It's like, I'm going to mess with your mind, I'm going to mess with your plans, I'm going to be a nuisance to you in every possible way, and even at the end of all of that, if you somehow come out on top, guess what? She wasn't the main bad guy. She's probably still gonna get what she wants. She's probably still gonna win. You will not regret picking her up whatsoever. Misha. I feel like Misha was in the story for like 5 seconds, and then anytime that Misha comes up, I'm like, eh. He's like the most uninteresting 5-star character. Like I'd rather learn more about Arlan than him. When it comes to animation, how easy it is to build them, how good they are, all that stuff, I think Misha sits pretty far down there at the bottom. Now the character that you have all been waiting for. Even at E0, she makes the game like baby mode easy. Her animations easily power crept every other character's animations, like even Sparkle's animations, like a power crept her animations, even though Sparkle's still my favorite. Her damage is insane, her power's nuts, the way that she plays in the story is exceptionally cool. You know what? Here, let me do something real quick. And that is exactly where she's gonna go. Let's be honest. Everything that she does, the teams that she enables, the comps that she enables, who she can play with, who she can't play with at E2, enabling even more comps for her, the strength that she brings, the animation quality that she has, the role she plays in the story, how cool she is, the way that she could just insta-kill mobs in the overworld, simulate invert, like she power crept every single other person. And if I were to put her at the top of S+, then that would mean that the other characters in S+ could, in some cases, compete with her. And I don't think there's a single character in the game that could possibly compete with her pretty much in any way. So she gets a tier of her own. It's not even a question. It's not even close. And you cannot, in good faith, disagree with that. And that is just my opinion, but I'm pretty sure that we are all on the same page here. If not, please let me know down in the comments so that I can explain to you exactly why you are wrong. The next character that we'll be talking about is Gallagher. Gallagher is a very interesting unit because he has break effect healing. He has a cleanse on his heal if you get some Eidolons, which shouldn't be that hard because we all know that you pulled for Acheron, so you probably have E2 Gallagher, E4 Gallagher, wherever it's at in Gallagher's tree. The way that his debuffs work with his ult as well, being able to just get it like hitting them, healing, and then anyone else that hits them afterwards, they have that debuff on them that also heals the entire team. I think he's a very interesting healer for sure. I can't say for sure whether he's as good as someone like Lynx, like Gepard. I think that what he brings is unique, and I would need to perform some more testing on him. I think that he's going to go about right here. Last but not least, we are going to talk about Adventuring. Now, Adventuring isn't out yet, so we don't have his exact numbers, his exact stats. However, we did get to try him in the story, and based on everything that I've seen, playing with him, like, you could take a bunch of damage and he'll just keep reapplying shields, and then he'll ult and he'll apply more shields. And then you do more damage, they do more damage to you, and you get more shields from follow-up because they're getting, they're hitting characters with shields. He applies the debuff. I think that he will for sure be the best in slot sustainer for Acheron, and that already brings his value up a lot. But even outside of Acheron teams, always having that shield that doesn't need to be on an ult, it's really good. Like, he's the reason that Gepard is in the A tier now, in my opinion, based on everything: ease of use, ease of build, what we know about him. I'd put him, yeah, you know what, yeah, I'll leave him at the top of S right now, just because we don't know too much about him, about his numbers specifically. If his numbers come out, then he might jump up to here and be better than a whole, but I do like him more than Imbibitor Lunae though, personally. But Imbibitor Lunae is, like, for sure stronger than him. I'm gonna leave him right. I'm gonna leave him right there. I'm gonna leave him right there, right in front of Imbibitor Lunae, because I don't really care much about Imbibitor Lunae, but I really do care and like for adventuring after everything that we have seen about him. And that's going to bring us to the end of this tier list. I went off of strength, I went off of personality, I went off of how much I enjoyed playing the characters. So I think this is a pretty solid list for when it comes to investment, how much you're going to enjoy always seeing their animations go off. Because at the end of the day, it's a game, and we got to make sure that we have as much fun playing. We don't always just care about doing the highest number, the highest, you know, a billion damage. And, you know, luckily for all of us, Acheron does a billion damage while also having the best animations and being really one of the most fun to play. So, you know, good for everyone that pulled her. If you don't have her and she's still on the banner, if you're a new player, I would highly recommend that you pick up one copy of her. You don't really need a light cone, just one copy of her. Anyone in the S+ tier will easily help you through. They'll carry you throughout most of the game, and they're really fun to play with. Same with S tier. If you did enjoy it, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell. Let me know in the comments your thoughts on any of the opinions that I had, on how wrong I am or how right I am, depending on how you feel. But that's all I have for you today, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.